All right, welcome everyone. We'll do the roll call. Start the meeting, 7:09 p.m. Committee members, Marcia Newman.
Here.
Michael Pistelli.
Here.
Patty Kirby.
Here.
Patrice Berlin.
Here.
Alex Isbicki.
Here.
Great. The meeting held on May 24th, our meeting last month, was videotaped like this meeting is, and it's available for the full download on the Studio City Neighborhood Council YouTube channel. And thank you, Peter Cole, for recording the meeting. So, before we get started, I just have a few prepared comments. Look, like most in this room, I'm worried about every negative post on Nextdoor, each Facebook message that relates to local crime, every article that conveys a Studio City problem, and with every helicopter buzzing over our heads, wondering, what's going on now. I'm annoyed at our local councilman's office. I do think there are some good intentions, but the prioritization of their key issues does not match, at least in my opinion, the community's areas of real concern. I am frustrated at myself and my Public Safety Committee for not being able to move the needle as much as I would like. That being said, this Public Safety Committee obviously can't do it alone, and I definitely won't be in this role forever. So I really ask everyone to turn up the volume another few dials and voice your concerns. In the area of public safety, please communicate and share your disappointment or support with the councilman's office. See me if you need any contacts. You also need to share your views at Studio City Neighborhood Council's monthly board meetings. More people need to convey concerns to my fellow board members or to the reps from the councilman's office and the mayor's office that also attend. It's the third Wednesday of every month, and hopefully it will be at Carpenter School starting this July. And simply, if you see something or unfortunate a part of a crime, please report it. We need crime stats to be accurately reflected. Tonight, after we hear from our officers, we will touch on a motion that we may not all agree on, but the goal of bringing it front and center is to, 1, raise the issue across the neighborhood, 2, start the dialogue and open a discussion to garner feedback on possible next steps, and 3, quite frankly, send a message to local officials that if they're not going to find adequate ways to protect us, we will figure out ways to supplement. I don't want to hold meetings just to hold meetings. I want to push the ball forward as much as possible. So right now, we'll open it up to public comments on issues not related to any of the agenda items. And please keep in mind, these are your comments, and the board, the committee cannot comment back on these. So if there's any general thoughts on public safety. Okay. In that case, if you could handle the intro. We know this guy, and he's going to introduce our special guest.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure I'm Shawn Smith. I'm your senior lead officer for Studio City, or at least most of it. There's a little sliver on both sides. I'm not in control, but for the most part, I am. This is my friend Bryan Mivelaz. I've known him for years. He did his probation at North Hollywood. He did a lot of different assignments, and then now he's the head traffic coordinator, basically a senior lead officer for the North Hollywood area for Valley Traffic Division. He handles like special requests, or like if somebody wants to get like a speed trailer out, or people are complaining about a certain street about the speed and stuff. The traffic for LAPD, the way it breaks down is we have our traffic officers. If you all see them out there, motorcycles and the cars that have the push bars, that's our traffic officers. They have way more traffic expertise than any patrol officer or regular uniform officer. So we try when we can. Any accident, they get out there. They know what they're looking at way more than we do. They're the ones that usually mostly shoot our laser for speed and all that stuff. So he was the expert at this. And so stuff like traffic flow and stuff like that, he'll be best to answer those type of questions. And I don't know, should I go into crime this week, or what do you want me to talk about?
Yeah, if you could give a quick crime.
Yeah, yesterday we had a shooting up on Satakoy. It's just a little ways from here. Satakoy by Coldwater Canyon. There's a little bar there. There are some people enjoying the World Cup games. And some people got intoxicated. From the video, you see somebody walking away from the bar and the liquor store next to it. The guy slowly follows him, starts shooting at him on the sidewalk, follows him around the corner up to Fulton, and shoots the gentleman twice in his torso, and slowly walks away. The victim survived. We're very thankful about that. He's able to describe the man. He knows basically what the man's nickname is. He knows where the man hangs out. It's going to be a very short time before we have the suspect in custody. This is not really a crime that we, as police officers, could have maybe stopped. It's just something that happens inside of a bar. Sometimes people are drinking too much. And they weren't even drinking too much inside the bar. We have a different witness that it wasn't like that. It's just some confrontation, probably over the over the soccer game, excuse me. But, anyways, and then that's going on. We have, in Studio City crime, we keep having cars getting stolen at a record number. The majority of the cars stolen out of Studio City area, about 60-70% of them have their keys in the car, so makes it real nice and easy for the suspects. Very hard for officers. So most modern cars, I don't say modern like 2010, 2012, almost impossible to steal unless you leave the key in the car or have a tow truck. So it's not like hot wiring and all that stuff doesn't work in these newer cars. So there's different people that have talked to me about amplifiers that'll amplify your fob signal to open up your car. I have not caught anybody with one. I've not seen one. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I'm saying as far as LAPD officers, and when we make a notable arrest like that from any division, 22 divisions, we find out about this stuff. Not once have I heard of an LAPD arrest involving one of those. So I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm just saying is we're not ever catching people. And we have task force that we deal with the FBI, Highway Patrol, and where they have these huge undercover events where they go to these chop shops and stuff. We still have not come across one that I've known about. And then I tell people to guard against that is a simple metal tumbler for your ice. That's supposed to be really good about blocking that. So like instead of throwing your keys in some kind of jar at home or on whatever table, maybe get one of those old-fashioned metal, the ice tumbler, and throw it in there. They don't look bad. You keep the lid on it. It will give you a little bit help on blocking that signal. Again, and then people breaking into the condos and houses on Moore Park, closer to Fulton, between Fulton and Coldwater. Those have stopped for the last 4 weeks. We had one burglary, we don't associate with it, more typical of a knock-knock style burglar that happened last week, and but not where we see sliding glass doors getting popped at the rate we did for a while. We don't know if those people are in custody or what. We have video of them. We don't have them ID. It's not like CSI where just because you get the picture, we get to ID them. It's the technology. It might be there in Vegas casinos, but we don't have it. We have some like this, but it's very much lower technology than some of that. So we don't have them in custody yet. We're hoping sooner than later. As far as other crimes, we do have thefts, and when you're talking about the posts on Nextdoor, please, if somebody says I was robbed the other day, robbery is when I take something from you or the suspect takes something from you by force or fear. That's a robbery. If you leave your purse or your laptop on the table at Starbucks and you went into the bathroom and someone takes it, you weren't robbed. They were just a victim of you not making life convenient for yourself and maybe being a little bit too lax about your property. So that's just theft. If someone breaks into your house, that's a burglary. So like when people last time say robbery, lots of times we all kind of think maybe getting a suspect pointing a gun or forcing somebody out. So please, when you hear that on Nextdoor and you ask those questions, what happened? Maybe kind of correct people if you can. Like I don't read Nextdoor posts. I do post once a week or every other week. I don't read any of your posts. If you want to email me personally, I always put my email address on back. I do not have time to go through all these Nextdoor posts. I'm already inundated with emails constantly, so myself and Brian, we do not look at Nextdoor.com. We post on there only. So if you want us to let us know about a crime, you can always cut and paste and email us separately, but just so you know, we don't read your post on Nextdoor. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to the festival
Absolutely.
the other day.
Oh, the festival was fantastic. I don't know who wasn't there, but we had a lot of great things people said about it, so we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, it was fun. Welcome, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think, do you want to open it up to questions? Do you want an overview?
I can try and introduce myself.
Please.
And tell you what I guys do. I'm Bryan Mivelaz. Been a police officer for 16 years. Been a motor officer. I ride a motorcycle, so you see me out on a motorcycle, it's usually me, especially here in Studio City. I've been doing that for the last 8. I just took over for Steve Roush, who I know a lot of you guys know was your motor officer for probably about 3 years, I think. He just retired in February, so I took over for him then. I spent a lot of my time in Studio City. A lot of the complaints I get are generally south of, we'll say, the 101. But I am responsible for all of North Hollywood, so I do try to split my time up accordingly. But like I said, a good majority of my time is spent down here in North Hollywood and Studio City. If you are able to get a hold of me through Shawn or any of the other SLOs that you guys may deal with, I do try to get back to you as soon as I can and try to handle your traffic problems. I'm here for traffic problems only, essentially. I'm not the guy like Shawn handling the homeless. I've worked with a couple of you. Some of you have seen me out there enforcing the law. I see a couple familiar faces here, so. Yeah. If you guys have any questions for me, any traffic concerns, I'll do my best to answer. I don't have all the answers. If I don't have the data, I'll be sure to find you, and I'll talk one-on-one offline afterwards, and that way I can get the answer to you. So I guess we can go ahead.
Hi, I know you from the traffic. I really think that a lot of the traffic problems, and we can talk about cars blowing through stop signs or speeding or going around. I live on Wrightwood Drive, which is one of the only streets that goes up to Mulholland. So it has become a shortcut. And in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, Ken and I walk every morning. The amount of traffic on that street, it's become the 405. It was designed as a neighborhood in the 50s. It has no sidewalks because it was a neighborhood, and people used to go out there. There was very little traffic. And 3 years ago, some people on Nextdoor, which I think is sort of humorous sometimes, were posting that the traffic was a problem. I actually live on a cul-de-sac. I live on Wrightwood Place. But every morning, walking down there, cars are blowing through stop signs and speeding, and basically, getting exercise, we get flipped off. I mean, they're like giving us the middle finger as they drive by us. I've been to we talked about speed bumps, we talked about enforcement, and I understand that you folks only have so many human resources to put out there. It's understandable. I've been told by police officers that Waze is doing nothing wrong, that they're within the law. And my opinion on that is change the law. Okay, those laws were in place well before we even had smartphones or cell phones or fax machines or whatever. Those are when the laws that governed the roads. For example, can't have speed bumps on Wrightwood Drive because of the incline. I go to the fire department says, please put speed bumps on Wrightwood. We can't get up the street when there's an emergency. Now this is during the rush hour, the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour. I have friends that live down in Encino and Sherman Oaks. They have the same problems. These GPS systems are rerouting traffic. I would suggest that half of the traffic problems, the blown stop signs and whatever, would go away, would disappear if you could regulate Waze and the other GPS systems. But what I've come up against, and it's almost to the point where I give up, it's like, well, let's kick the can down the road. The last conversation I had, there was a search going on for a contractor to select a contractor who then could do a study on Wrightwood Place to see if there's an increase in traffic. And I'm just going, my God, that's going to take 5 years, the way the city moves, to select a contractor that everybody politically can be, approved by the city council, and then to do a study. It's like, we need the relief now. I mean, now. There was one time, Ken brings his dog in the morning. Somebody blew the stop sign at Violin and Wrightwood and almost hit, and started yelling, get your animal off the road. This is our neighborhood. This is, the reason that we bought, or the reason that I bought a home in Studio City is I like the community. It was a community. It is becoming a freeway.
Do you have a question for the officer?
Well, the question that I have for all of you three sitting up there is, what can be done in the short term without kicking the can down the road saying, well, they're investigating it, they're selecting a contractor, they're doing whatever. As I said, the relief needs to be immediate, and with what I've been told, it sounds like it's a 4 or 5 year process, even to get a study done, you know.
Who's
2 or
been
3
telling you that?
Pardon?
Who have you been
A
communicating
police
with?
officer, and just, will just remain nameless on the
Oh,
police
okay.
officer. I do, I've had Shawn at my house, you've come to my house, you've been out there writing tickets, and the fellow that retired, I knew as well, and
Well, let me just stop real quick, so I'm just throwing it out there is that, so as police officers, right, for the city of LA, we don't always agree with the city of LA, but our opinions don't count, as far as like.
They don't
My opinion doesn't count as far as what the city wants to do. I'm just throwing that out there, okay, so
No,
you know
I
that,
get it.
so, if you are not happy with what is getting done here, you all need to take it to the ballot. And I say that's the only way to kick it to the curb. So like, I say this at all the meetings, and like, I'm a big one on democracy, I really am. 22% of all registered voters showed up to vote for the city of LA last time. That was 3-4 weeks ago, right? For the major one that everybody's complaining about the president, 11% of the registered voters showed up to vote. So what happens is your city council members that might not be doing enough for you all, if only 11% show up to vote, they think everything must be fine, and that's what we're dealing with. So like, and I'll tell you, like, I'm not happy with everything. We went through a period of time where, like, Bryan and I, like I said, we're both Valley guys. And first time I came to the Valley is when I showed up 20 years ago to work in North Hollywood. I didn't know this was part of the city, you know? I honestly didn't. I'm from the Inland Empire, so I couldn't believe this is still part of the city. But I can tell you is the Valley has been grossly understaffed for a long time as far as officers go or anything like that. We have a new chief that's coming up now, which would be great if you all have a conversation with him. He makes a lot of decisions. He likes the Valley. He spent a lot of his career in the Valley. Now, he can't do anything about Waze. He can't do anything like that. The only people that can do something about Waze is the city themselves, like through the mayor's office, suing Waze, right? So that's the only way to stop Waze.
change the laws.
Right, absolutely. Well, that's how you change the laws, though. You change the laws by going to the ballot and putting, getting signatures on there to put it on the ballot. We were happy with it. I love speed bumps. But like Bryan, so Bryan asked Bryan to go out there to Wrightwood, and Bryan, did he tell you what he did? So, go ahead.
I can tell you right now, we don't write the laws, first off.
I understand.
So, I go to them and enforce them. But just on Wrightwood alone, since, I think April 28th, when I first got the first email, about it, it's been 20 man-hours of me being up there enforcing the law, 135 tickets. I think only 2 warnings out of those 135 tickets. And I've impounded a couple cars. I'm doing everything I can to try to help you. I know you guys have a problem up there.
But how about the residents? Who's getting the ticket?
I'd say upwards of 20% of the people are residents of Wrightwood Drive, of the Donnas. I've written tickets to.
Oh, we don't care about the Dons.
Well,
Oh, yes, we do.
they are using Wrightwood Drive, and they do have that ability. It connects to their neighborhood. So
What does it take? It would take the Donnas.
No, not, get back there.
Well, so come in.
Solve the problem,
Nice.
solve a significant problem by putting a no left turn between the hours of 7 and whatever coming out.
That's not, again, that's not LAP,
not-
we don't determine that, which, and I'm not trying to kick the can, I saw, no, but I'll tell you what, I supposedly run Studio City as far as law enforcement goes, right? Except for my captains above me, but like, I try to get DOT out for impound a car, which is, LAPD really shouldn't be doing, they won't respond to us. So I'm telling you, they don't respond to you. Say, oh, I contacted them 11 times. Well, me too. Every time you did, I did too. They're not responding. So I'm telling you, the only agency that I've really seen that constantly responds is when people call, or LAPD or LA Fire. So I want you all to complain to your city council office. And about speed bumps in October is usually when they go out to get suggestions or decide what money is going to be spent on speed bumps. So we have until October, which is not going to be that far coming up, to get speed bumps on Wrightwood. And so what I'm trying to put out there is, and Jessica Fugate is the city council assistant out in this area. She's awesome. But we need to start hitting her up right away and saying, hey, Wrightwood, and I agree with you.
Have you ever contacted her?
Right.
Have you ever been in communication?
Look, how do we reach it? How do we reach it? 3 years ago,
Oh.
I mounted it, and I, again, live on a cul-de-sac. The only thing I get up and down the street are the people that can't figure out ways.
So tomorrow, this is what we'll do. You'll get my email tonight.
Okay?
You'll email me, me, and then I will loop Jessica in
Yeah.
and CC Brian and Shawn.
And we agree, trust me, I don't want people speeding up and
And
down
this is not
Wrightwood,
the
you know?
first time she's heard about this issue. So the more people, once again, what I said earlier, the more people who complain, who bring it to her attention,
And
Should
that's
we
what,
listen?
we're trying to get you guys to complain to the right people. So like, honestly, I can't call the mayor's office and say, what the heck you're doing, you know what I mean? I can't do that. So I don't live in the city either. So like, not even when I'm off duty can I call and do that. So like, what we're trying to do, is Brian and I, is we want things to get done too. We just need you guys to be the one funneling it, you know? So like, I'll point you the right direction.
Tell us how to funnel.
Well, that's what we're doing.
so we'll do that
But
tomorrow.
you're totally right. Brian write 135 tickets up there. That's a great way to start, at least saying we need the speed bumps. So he
That's
went
a
up
good
there and did
idea.
the man
That's a good
hours
idea.
for it. And I'm
I've
saying
been
we
told
can,
that the angle is too steep for speed bumps.
Well, keep on trying.
The fire department, I went to 86 and they said, please, put speed bumps in.
Right.
Talk to the police, they go, can't, too
Right.
much.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna, so we actually live on Wrightwood Drive as well.
Yeah.
Right there, just below the stop sign, and Brian, I think we actually met
yes.
a couple weeks ago.
And just so you know, that lady that you were talking to me and I left, that
Oh,
lady
yeah.
lived on Wrightwood Drive. And I'll tell you right now.
Well, and that's fine, and
Yeah.
they should be ticketed as well.
Yeah,
Don't
she
get
was.
me wrong, because right where we live is right just below those stop signs. And even this morning, my wife was pulling out, and every day it's almost a car crash.
It's a gauntlet.
Because the cars actually won't stop
stop.
when you're backing out, so this person changed lanes
Right.
to go around.
It's
And we get a lot
literally
of
become the
cursing.
405. It's
You know.
as bad as
So-
the 405 and the drive
So,
is.
so my question, because I think that's a great data point in terms of how many tickets you've given, I guess my first question is, does that data go anywhere? Can we use that data to, to prove the point that that street is being used, or that stop sign's not being effectual?
through your
It's not really very small.
emails we can. So like, through your emails, we'll connect you guys to the emails with the city council office and say, this is many tickets just one officer, him, wrote in that time. I can't give you any patrol resources to write tickets up there. So like, I'll tell you the truth. I won't never lie about stuff. So either I'll say I can't answer, or I'll tell you the truth, okay? That's how I'm gonna be with you guys. So, but as far as that area, like I said, one patrol unit for all Studio City, one at any given time. So what I need you all to do sometimes is, if you see, it'd be nice if just take a video out there, how many people are running the stop sign. That's helpful information. He goes out there and hits it as much as he can. All that stuff helps us, you know? And then I need, instead of just two of you complaining from Wrightwood, you guys need to do some legwork and get all these petitions signed on Wrightwood, or even the adjoining things that you guys want that. All that stuff helps us getting that done. Because I guarantee you, Paul Krekorian wants probably to be elected again, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure he's a nice person. I met him a bunch of times. He's a nice person. I'm sure he wants to be elected again. And this kind of stuff, he wants to please you guys. So every elected official wants to please their constituents. So this is a way how he pleases people. So I'm just throwing it out there. This is it's a good way to start. And we trust me, it's impossible almost for a traffic car and not without a motorcycle to do traffic enforcement there. It's unsafe for me to stop anybody there. I'm gonna get killed when I open the door to come out to walk around to your car. So we all wait till they get down at the bottom and then stop. It's very, very hard to enforce actually on the street. So he will get them where we can't get them. And like I said, video is awesome. So like if you can say, hey, this video was set up between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. or whatever, and this is how many we counted. You do the legwork, count it for us, that helps a lot.
Is there a way, maybe, because the other thing is that I know streets are obviously classed by the type of traffic that they're supposed to have. We're Hillside Street.
Right.
I actually called the
Right.
planning department today to try and figure out what the street was actually set aside for. I mean, is there a way to get sort of monitoring to see the type of traffic and volumes of traffic
So,
that are going, they go to DOT? Or?
Before this meeting tonight, I kind of went back through, because I knew Wrightwood was going to be a big topic. I went back through the prior complaints that my counterparts before me had done, and Wrightwood was a complaint then too. Back in early 2017, late 2016, he had the signboard trailer up there if someone was complaining about speed. And that signboard counted 31,000 cars. And then the notes of that complaint, it was designated as a secondary roadway, meaning it's not a neighborhood at that point because it's a connector. And I haven't followed up on it tonight. I was just quickly reading through the notes so I could be ready for the meeting tonight. And that's something through DOT we can talk about. I don't know, there's a big map of all how the roadway designations are. It's through Caltrans. It's almost impossible to use, but if you get down to the nitty-gritty and you find your street, you can actually find out what your street is designated as. I'll tell you right now, Wrightwood Place is designated a neighborhood. Wrightwood Drive is going to be designated as a secondary or thoroughfare.
in the back.
Yeah, I want to say two things. One is, I'm actually the vice chair of the Transportation Committee. And I feel that this issue, anybody who wants to handle it, however you want to handle it, I'd like to invite you to come on behalf of my chairman of the Transportation Committee. We've been dealing with the issue of ways in general and with Wrightwood specifically I've been on the committee for 8 years now. We've been dealing with it for that long. So all I'm saying.
For 8 years?
Yeah, not for ways, but, so what I'd just like to say on behalf of the Transportation Committee, which is another committee of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, which I feel that this issue straddles that line. As a matter of fact, I feel that a lot of what's just been said has not been a police issue. The police are doing what they can in terms of what the law is. I'd like to invite you, along with contacting Jessica Frigate, who we contact all the time, to bring this up in transportation.
Okay.
And Barry Johnson, who's the chairman of the Transportation Committee, is an expert on what are feeder roads, what are neighborhood roads, what are hillside roads. We've been working in the Silver Triangle on Laurel Terrace, which is the cut through from Whitsett to Laurel Canyon, to try to get that in a very different way to do it. And the other thing I'd like to say, that's in my semi-official position, I'm just a volunteer. In a personal position, I walk Wrightwood at least once a week.
Okay.
And I actually live close to Berry and Ventura, but I walk all the way up Berry and then down Wrightwood, and I go down to Coangan and down to Ralph's that way. That's my hillside walk. Yeah, I'm gonna die on Wrightwood. And as a matter of fact, your statement about the freeway, I made a sarcastic fake motion. Committees make motions to the thing. A sarcastic fake motion in transportation that we officially rename Wrightwood Drive the Wrightwood Freeway.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's turned into.
And Sean, and I want who's leading you had mentioned, this in no way is a police issue.
Well, we don't take offense to anything, trust me.
No. There's laws being broken, people are blowing through stop signs, they're speeding. I've been going up Wrightwood, which I think is a neighborhood street, and I've actually had somebody pass me because I was doing the speed limit. It's like, it's a 3-lane street at best,
I can speak to some data on that. Is the data from 2016 showed that out of the 31,000 cars, the average speed was 23, or we'll call it 24 miles an hour. The speed limit on the street is 25. There was one car at 44 miles an hour. And that's the data from our speed trailer, who takes an average of the 31,000.
The point I'm trying to make is I'm not holding the police, and I know you're limited with your resources, and I know you do everything that you can do, Brian. This could be a love fest. What I'm trying to do is say, look, how do we solve the problem? Ways, in my opinion, is a huge issue and will continue to be a huge issue for the valley, for the city, whatever. If the city of LA, if the police department, if everyone wants ways controlling the traffic in LA, don't change any laws.
I think with Waze right now, unfortunately, a lot of people know the route. And it's not, you change Waze, but you made a good point tonight. The speed bumps could be a good solve for
I've been
this.
told we can't have speed bumps.
But you haven't talked to the councilman's office. You haven't.
Oh, for God's sake, it's like, well, let's say, I was told I had to talk to DOT. Okay?
Okay.
So the firemen are sitting there going, please, their fire trucks, I went down to 86 on Vineland, they've got like 3-foot clearance under those trucks.
So let's start the discussion again tomorrow. I will connect you to the right people. I will connect you to Barry, who's the head of transportation. He's not here tonight. We'll connect you to Jessica. Shawn and Bryan will be CC'd on those emails, and you'll start the groundswell and the conversations.
The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll shut up because there's probably 20 other people. It's frustrating. This has been going on, and I've been trying to change things just because I walk. I don't live on the street.
Right.
But I'm going to get hit by a car. His dog's going to get hit by a car. Almost did the other day. And it's like, I've been dealing with this for 3 years, and the solutions and what I hear from the council meetings, the LA Council, I've gone to a couple of meetings here it's the same. It doesn't change. And it's not holding the police responsible. It's not about giving out a bunch of tickets or whatever. It's about reducing the traffic through the neighborhood. That's what it's about.
Marcia, you had a
You'll get
comment?
rid of 50% of your problem if you get
Okay.
rid of 50% of your traffic.
Okay, here, I have some very important information to tell you. You can circumvent all of this. Waze is owned by Google, now called Alphabet. These are private companies,
Yeah.
all right? The way, and I'm founder of a technology company.
Okay.
The way to hit them in their heart is to send a community letter with as many signatures as possible to the CEO of Alphabet/Google and to Waze, saying you have to change your algorithm to keep your traffic out of our community.
They won't.
They have to know.
do.
That's a pro.
They do know.
You
They
have-
know,
you-
and they've said, it's a street, and we're not doing anything illegal, we're gonna continue doing what we're doing. That's from Waze, and it's not just Waze, it's all of the apps now.
I know, but the biggest ones are Google Maps and Waze. It's the same company.
Yeah.
But if you have to send a letter, lots of letters to the CEO, and of both of these, both entities, Waze and Google, saying you have to take our street off of your algorithm.
Peter?
Well, I don't know, I haven't tried this theory yet, but I assume that Waze gets its information from each and every one of us that use
Yeah.
Waze.
It's user input.
So I would try, I'd go outside, get a bunch of neighbors, go outside and
Post an accident?
post an accident.
They
Post a
figured that
traffic.
out within days. It's already been done. And it's a good idea, but they figure out that it's a fake posting.
But if it's a group of people, if it's, half a dozen people.
Yes,
Nigel, you're next.
I'm a
No, I have a
technologist,
question,
and
but-
they
A new topic?
particularly have algorithms that detect that.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing it, they will
Then they
cancel
ban
you,
you.
they will cancel your subscription and not
Your
listen
free
to you.
subscription.
Yes.
Alex?
They'll kick you
Yeah,
off.
I completely sympathize with what you're saying about Waze. But, I think Waze is just fulfilling a need, and the need that doesn't really exist maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah.
which is we just have too many cars for the width of our roads. And what does that mean? That means, I hate to say it to our beautiful city, you need to stop developing and changing out homes for multifamily and stop making these areas as dense as they are, because unless we can expand our canyons or our roads and widen them, which we're not going to do, it's going to continue to just get more stifling as far as our traffic. And Waze will become even more. Now people are dependent on it, sadly. So unless I can hear of another solution, it's kind of futile, in my opinion. You're not going to get a multi-billion-dollar company
No, it-
because we have problems with our city not knowing how to plan our city properly.
What I'm suggesting,
So,
and it's a real.
and it's a good suggestion.
It's a
I would
simple
suggest
fix.
it.
First of all, some science to correct. But these laws that were written into the technology woman, these laws were written 50 years ago. There was no technology that people could even perceive of that was going to guide traffic, much less a cell
We
phone.
had a tenth of the population then.
And what I'm going is, the laws have to be changed to say something that we retain the right to change the rules dependent on emerging technology. Because I don't know what's coming 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10, nor do you, I think.
I think we're all in agreement with you, and we really now want
You
to
wanna move
help.
on.
No, we want to move on, but no, we really believe we could connect you to the right people. I don't think you've been talking to the correct offices at the moment, and we'll start that process tomorrow.
I'll talk to them all.
Well, you said you did not talk to the councilman's office.
Yes, I know, I Krekorian?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Got zero response.
Okay, sometimes it helps when I'm on the chain and Sean's on the chain as well.
Got zero response.
Okay, we'll fix that.
I just want to say real quick, you initially said that you were thinking about getting a no
My
left
bad.
turn, no left turn.
Nigel.
That's the route to
sorry.
the
No,
tow
not
law
about
change.
this. I
Yeah.
I
want,
would pursue that.
Brian.
Because if the speed
Because they're
bumps
still
are
talking on
too
this
steep,
topic.
they're not gonna give you that, but I live near Coldwater and Ventura, and they have, Halkirk has had the horrible thing that you had, and there's no left turn between 7 and 10, and there are no cars there.
That's what the Donnas did too, because when I was working before I retired, I was driving through the Donnas every morning to turn left onto to Laurel Canyon to get over the hill. And, the first time in like 5 years, I didn't get down to Santa Monica. And I was like, oh, there's a sign.
Nigel?
I wanted to ask Brian and Shawn
Doesn't work.
his opinion about cell phone use on the road, because I think it's getting really bad and nothing seems to be done about it because people constantly are on the phone. And do you know what is very interesting? A lot of the people that I see on a phone are driving expensive cars. It's not as if they're cheap cars that they can't afford a hands-free device. I've got a hands-free device. I didn't pay for it, but I see all these Mercedes and Cadillacs and BMWs all yakking away on the phone, and nothing seems to get done about it.
So, cell phone use is from the people driving the $500 Honda Accord to the person driving there's no boundaries here. Just last week, Valley Traffic put together a task force for distracted drivers, 76 tickets by 4 officers one day, just in North Hollywood Division. That included Studio City. The police department is actively always, we have guys that all they do is write cell phone tickets because they can. People don't care because they need to, if they're connected to this. I mean, look at almost every one of us has our phones here, and it's the same way when you're in your car. Bluetooth or not, people are going to use them. So it's one of those things.
Sir. In the blue, dark blue.
I'm one of the Donya's guys. I apologize or not. I want to thank all you guys. I want to thank Ron Drescher because he puts up with all of my emails complaining and crying. And Jessica Fergate in the office does what she can, which is this. Couple quick stories. I park our cars in front of our house. My car parked right in front of my front door was totaled by a speeder on Donna Amelia. My wife's backing out of our driveway. The back of her car got taken off by somebody speeding on Donna Amelia. And yes, I agree 1,000% with the wave situation. Every morning it's a parking lot. Every afternoon it's a parking lot. All day long, no matter what time it is, people are speeding to the point where I'm shocked that nobody has been hit and killed on our street. It's a straight street. This gentleman correctly pointed out that the no left turns and not being able to turn onto Laurel Canyon doesn't work. People ignore it and they continue to do it. And anything that you gentlemen and ladies can do to help us is greatly appreciated, because I don't want to see the lovely people walking babies in their strollers or the lovely people walking their dogs, as you have come close to, get hurt or get killed. We love where we live. We love our neighbors. We just want to be safe.
Thank you.
I don't know if
Please.
I can try to help you out here. I just handled a complaint for one of your neighbors on Donna Amelia for the people turning left. Prior to that sign going up, traffic was backed up.
Very bad.
Very bad. Recently, working there before the school year was out, the traffic, you might see 1 or 2 cars lined up to make the left turn. After writing a bunch of tickets there, I think I was in the 30 range for the last couple of weeks writing tickets. At the end of it, there was literally nobody was using it again. And I understand that it's going to be a place that I'm going to have to go back and visit, because they're going to, when they don't see a police officer there, they're going to do it. But when they see a police officer there, that sign has improved that situation somewhat. It's not perfect. I don't think it'll ever be perfect. I heard someone say Halkirk. Halkirk's the same way. If I go to Halkirk, I can write a whole bunch of tickets off of Halkirk. It's the same kind of sign. But through enforcement, me going out there, there has been improvements, and I understand your frustration with Donna Amelia.
So I can see, just so like, you say this, Brian's saying with his enforcement, right? And that's basically what it is, Brian's enforcement only. So I'm just throwing it out there, like, I can't tell the chief of police, man, you guys have done a bad job, you don't have put enough cops out in North Hollywood. That doesn't how it works. I can't complain to my bosses like that. So we have a new chief just started today. brand new today. He likes the valley. He's gonna be buying a house from what I've heard in Studio City or Sherman Oaks. This is a
Really?
good thing for all of us, right?
Wow.
But I'm just saying is, he has told multiple people that he intends to, so like, just so you know, like North Hollywood Division, which is Studio City's in, right, has a captain. That captain is about as powerful as a chief of most little towns. He's in charge of 200 some officers, and they're only called a captain. But it used to be back in the day, all the resources that ever worked North Hollywood area would come from that the captain would decide. Through the different chiefs, they've taken some over here. Oh, we'll put these people in when you need them, back and forth. So most of the divisions have been raped of resources. And so like you have very little resources to do extra stuff, like either it's gang enforcement, homeless, and different crime stuff like going on with that, or even like outreach like that, or even the speeding part of stuff. So you have a new chief coming in. You guys have a great voice. Sometimes your voices are just misdirected, and my goal is to direct them in the right direction. So you guys, I'm sorry, I'm not the best spoken person, but you all need to make sure that your voice is heard by the right audience. The right audience here would be Mayor Garcetti and the chief of police. So the only two people that really decide, because my chief works for the mayor, that's who picked him, decide where the resources are going. So it shouldn't be Bryan up here by himself. That's ridiculous. One motorcycle officer constantly coming into the valley, coming into North Hollywood. We need 3 or 4 of them. We need more officers to be able to say, hey, when you're not doing anything, go over there. The problem is the officers are constantly doing stuff now. The more we're dealing with, homeless is a huge thing. Every time you deal with a homeless person and they go to the hospital, it takes hours and hours out of the field. So we need more resources in the valley. You all need more resources in the valley. The chief is already starting to look into it. I'll just tell you that. So our geographic areas, so like North Hollywood area is divided up to 8. Studio City, this area is 15 out of 85. 85 is, I'm 15 slow 85. I'm in charge of 85. That's what we'll call it. That's Studio City area. It has 1 patrol unit for 5.8 square miles. Rampart Division, 2.2 square miles, has 8 to 10 at any given time. Now, Rampart does have more shootings and more stuff like that. I give it to you, right? But however, most crime reports of any significant take the same amount, whether it's a theft crime, whether it's a crime like that. Officers still out of the field to do that. Studio City area, #1 in crime reported last month and this month. #1 in radio call volume, North Hollywood area, Studio City. So we have a lot of things like citizens are not helping out lots of times by making themselves very easy victims. And I'm trying to educate everybody too, but we just need more people. So you all need to complain to the right people. The people you need to complain to is the chief and the mayor, and we need more
Will you
people.
help us?
Huh? No, I don't.
No,
No.
look, it's as simple
Do you have his
as,
email address?
you're up for a beer.
This
with
gentleman
the
right
chief.
here, this gentleman's already on the campaign about it. You guys are lucky to have him. And there's other great people on the neighborhood council too. They're awesome. They're doing stuff like that. They send out mass emails to say that you guys need more resources. So that's the email chain that you should get on. If
That's
you're interested, let him know about it.
That's fine. But you can talk to the chief, you're out having a beer,
Time,
saying,
I'm told
"God,
I'm
those
only
people
allowed
He doesn't tend to drink with me.
Half an hour. Come on.
Sir,
Look, let's have email addresses of these people, then we can complain.
as soon as you get them, let me know. They won't tell me their email addresses, but if you get them, that's who you email. But it's the neighborhood council that has a big voice. The neighborhood council is the ones who get that stuff happening for you.
All right.
Could you pass that around? Yeah, thank you,
Craig, will
Patrice.
you make sure that we have
Yeah, we're gonna pass around the sheet
email
tonight.
addresses?
Make sure you write your email address here, a lot of on here, and then I will send an email with the key emails.
I'll tell you, nobody wants more cops than the cops. We want more cops more than you all do, trust me. Like
We are fighting for this.
I don't want to be by myself requesting a backup, trust me. So.
Okay, we gotta
Yes.
keep moving. Do you have a question?
So, to be blunt, unless you have a mass attack on these politicians, you are gonna get nowhere. Unless Krekorian feels he's gonna lose his position.
Correct.
Which I don't know if that's coming up, you're gonna get nowhere.
Correct.
The thing is, I've had
That's unacceptable.
I've had
Correct.
experience dealing with government from the White House down in national security issues, and I define politicians' bureaucratic behavior as the failure of imagination, the failure of intellect. You're not gonna get anywhere. What I suggest you do is find, and now you may say this is nuts, find a lawyer that pro bono in your neighborhood will sue Waze, or figure out a way for some type of lawsuit that will get lots of publicity, and start going after Waze that way, because forget the politicians, it's not gonna work. The other comment I have is, I walk my dog in our neighborhood, this is between Whitsett, Laurel Canyon, Ventura, and Moore Park. You wanna make 135 tickets, if it's around $200 a ticket, must be. It's $26,000 gross revenue. Park a motorcycle in that area, and you'll get 135 tickets in less than half a day. I see these people, I won't use the swear words, running stop signs. I see people running stoplights all the time, almost killing little children. You guys aren't gonna be able to stop it because the mayor doesn't fund you, the councils don't support you, but realistically, if you can convince somebody that you can cover their salaries plus, put a motorcycle cop in that area I'm talking about, because it's a cash cow. Otherwise, we're wasting our time with these politicians.
I've talked to.
No,
and
you
they don't
absolutely
get the money, it
right.
goes down to City Hall and it gets lost. They don't care.
Whatever.
Any more traffic-related concerns, questions for Bryan while we have him? Yes, sir.
I've lived in the valley for 40 years, been taking cold water that amount of time, most of it. I live 6 miles from work on the other side of the hill. Used to take me on Saturdays about 12 minutes. I typically go 45 minutes to an hour now each way. That they're working on Benedict Canyon, more people are coming to Coldwater. My question is there some way we can get more?
Excuse me, sir. Nigel? Sir?
People don't understand.
A gentleman's talking, thank you.
I'm talking to him
I-
quietly.
we
My
can't-
question is, I also take Wrightwood once in a while because I have a couple of appointments over there. And I know that by ways diverting traffic on shortcuts, it's a terrible thing for the residents because I'm in one of those situations also. But if we stopped all that waste, it would be more on Coldwater. So my question is, the Coldwater signal at Mulholland does not facilitate the number of cars per hour to the maximum. Because
You're right.
every time it stops the cars, you're cutting down 20%. One of my clients used to be the traffic commissioner in Beverly Hills. He told me about left turn lanes cutting down traffic flow 20 to 30% per hour. Same thing with Coldwater up there. I noticed an immense problem the minute the signal went in. The signal has been out 2 or 3 times where they put an officer up there. The minute an officer is there, there's a third less traffic weight just because he facilitates the movement of the cars better. What can be done about that situation of the signal not being set correctly for the maximum cars per hour? Or the time lag of having no cars go through and you have to wait 4 seconds before it turns red?
I'll get your information. I have a contact with the DOT that they have a whole light timing division. I can ask them to take a look at it for you. And
It'd be very helpful.
Yeah, so after the meeting, come up and talk to me and we'll see if we can get you in on that. Just know that the DOT is, I go into the guy's office, it's a huge office building, there's 40 desks, there's one guy in there right now.
Wow.
And he's overwhelmed, the requests are taking a long time. He's working as hard as he can. If it's a safety issue, a lot of times it gets pushed to the head of the table, but we'll work on it. So.
I know when they put the signal in, they most likely cut down on T-bone accidents at that intersection. So in that regard, I would imagine they have cut down on accidents, but on the traffic flow, they definitely cut that down also.
It could be a pure light timing issue. I had the light timing changed at Vineland and Ventura for northbound Vineland traffic at Ventura because it was backing too far up in the right when the light timing was an issue and they did change it. So hopefully I can get the same done for you.
We can try it, I like it.
To the gentleman that was talking about the density issue, I believe it was you, sir, and the Wrightwood that we're talking about doesn't have a density problem. It's been a neighborhood since the 1950s. It hasn't changed. There's no apartments, there's no condos going, there's a couple of mansions.
It's a thoroughfare, though.
But since they've opened it all the way to the top of Mulholland, it's not a neighborhood anymore. So it's not it's a density problem for the valley. Obviously, they're building apartments and whatever. And to this gentleman who I can't see, you're around the corner, but on Coldwater, the only thing that I would say to that is that Coldwater, Laurel, the 405, those were roads that were designed to go over the hill. Wrightwood Drive was not. Wrightwood is a neighborhood. And it has become a freeway. So I don't, in deference to you, I don't think it's a density problem of the neighborhood. It might be a
We're a
density
commuter
problem.
Well, if they
neighborhood.
came
that's
off
the
right
thing.
and went to Coldwater, it would be
Yeah.
another 20% worse. If you
Wow.
get rid of all the
The
auxiliary.
question's gonna be removing the cars, because the cars are getting, the traffic is increasing. So we're just talking about the same, you're just trying to move, like the other gentleman mentioned, you're just gonna move the cars wherever they have to be, where we're really gonna see the real
Isn't that the
problem.
405?
Yeah, like if we didn't have Waze, right now, we would be just spilling over on these major thoroughfares with completely impacted traffic.
Right.
And then our beautiful politicians would definitely now be hearing about it.
And they would be doing something about it. too.
Maybe, right? So,
other-
yeah, okay, so my point is that I get it, and I agree with you. But boy, how do we reduce the amount of cars? I know it sounds insane.
Got a great idea.
But,
Depending on what side of the fence you're on, they were talking about arming teachers. Maybe we could arm the residents.
I know what you
And we'll
do.
just,
Now the cars.
I was gonna say, Alex, what you do is you do what I did. The old lady got a tricycle, which my doctor said. But in fact, I asked an officer one day, because I do fine on the level and going downhill, but going uphill, it's a little hard for the 87-year-old to travel. And this officer had said that, I ride on the sidewalk because I'm just off Laurel Canyon, I'm on Mountain View, and the traffic, even on our street, is just, it's horrendous too.
It's
But
California.
the officer said as long as I didn't use my electric conversion kit, that I could ride on the sidewalk. And we don't have that many people walking, and, but the tricycle really is wonderful because when I go down to my Vaughn's Market and I can put my groceries in the basket and I'm not using gasoline and I'm getting, so I don't know, maybe
A lot
we
of
need-
commuters, though, they can't ride their,
Maybe
Well,
the
I have
birds
to
will
walk
save us.
across.
You see the birds now?
oh, the birds?
The scooters all across the
Oh,
community?
sure.
Cover
But-
story in USA Today. Any questions, last questions for Brian? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it's directly related to that, but my wife has an issue going to the markets now because of the wash. The other day, she went to the Vaughn's Market at Laurel, and there was a nude guy over there with a knife that he was wielding.
What happened?
That's not for Brian, though. That's, naked guys are mine. So my thing.
so Sean,
Let me tell you guys, it was not funny.
It's not
I
funny.
went to the market, and as I went up to the cash register, the lady said to her boss, "There's a guy over there, he's got bare feet, he shouldn't be in the show, in the store, let him go, make him go out." Well, he walked out. So I got my groceries and I walked out thinking nothing is going on. And as I'm walking west to my car over by CVS, and this guy now has a butcher knife this big, holding it up against a black guy. I turned around and went back in, told the manager about it. The manager said, he's at the cash register, so he had somebody call the cops. And I stayed there until I felt more comfortable. I saw people coming in and going out and whatever. And this lady and I went together and we looked and there was nobody there anymore. But then we were walking as the building ends and then people can drive up the driveway.
Right.
This guy is walking absolutely buck naked with this big knife. And we just ran to our cars.
Well, my question is, and I was curious about this before it ever happened, at the Studio City Council meetings, they were talking about building out the wash. How much of an issue is the wash now for the homeless? That's my question.
It's a huge issue. It's a logistics huge issue too. There's 5 different entities that run or own parts of the wash. So LA City owns right behind Vaughn's. LA City owns that part right there. The north side's mostly owned by the county. Department Corps of Engineer has some. Caltrans has some. So I can only enforce illegal camping because that's technically now a parkway because they have that, that trail down there.
Okay.
I can only enforce that on the LA City side. I can't enforce, you can't be on county property. County has to do that. County has to tell them that they can't be there. And then I can't get rid of anybody. As far as we were sued, this LAPD was sued about 6 years ago because you all been in LA a long time, so LAPD used to be different, right? And I was a little bit part of that. I've been on for 21 years, so we would move people's stuff for them. It's probably the most appropriate way to say it, right? And so like that, we're no longer allowed to do that. We all have these video cameras on us. Everything is done 100% by the book, which is a good thing. However, we don't move people's stuff. I could cite you, give you a citation for having an illegal camp back there on the on the way. I can't do anything about it. It's a $25 infraction only. The person, if they get arrested for it, is out within hours of it, because that's what's going on. So if you get arrested in LA County for any crime and you get sentenced to 240 days or less, you're out the very next day because of overcrowding, because citizens don't want to vote on building more county jail space. And that's the truth of the matter is. So all drugs are misdemeanors, heroin, cocaine, misdemeanor. So those are the ones walking up and down the streets naked. People say, oh, lots of times it's a mental illness. It might have something to do with it a little bit, but I can tell you and Brian can tell you too, from being a cop a long time, is the people walking around naked around here are drug addicts for the most part. And I come from a family history of drug abuse, so I can say I've seen it lots of times growing up. Not naked people walking around with butcher knives, thank God I missed that one growing up, but I've seen a lot of stuff. And I could tell you this much, most of the camps that we go into all have drug paraphernalia all over it. Now your sentences, so if I arrest you for heroin today, you go in front of the judge says, either you plead guilty, you're gonna get 150 days, remember I just told you about 240 days or less, right? Or you take rehab. So the guy goes, why am I gonna be forced into rehab? I'll take the conviction. He's out, that's it, he's done. Right back out in the street. So people are saying, what are we doing about it? I've asked people what are we all doing about it? You know, I live in the county, I live in the state too, so what are we voting for? You know, who are we voting for to pass these things? So like, I hate to say, like, people say, we're not gonna arrest our way out of homelessness, and I don't want to either, but like, certain things we have to make sure we're voting correctly for. If we're gonna make drugs misdemeanors, we have to make sure we hook in on like mandatory like rehab and stuff onto that type of stuff. And, yes, ma'am.
Garcetti keeps giving money for the homeless to live. He keeps taking our tax dollars and spending it on the homeless instead of building jails where they could go and they could.
Or rehabs or something.
Right.
Well, you know, so H and HHH passed, I don't live in this county either, so a lot of people voted for that stuff, so, but part of that stuff, instead of just like voting blindly, sometimes just reading a little bit of stuff, we all, even where I live, everywhere, we all have to make sure we're reading this and knowing, have a little more knowledge about stuff we're voting for. So housing is great, and I think these people need housing, but rehab is part of housing. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, these drug addicts to me is like, my family succeeded by being forced into rehab places. We used to be able to force people in there, and that's part of the housing. So if you're not happy with all the money going to this whatever, you need to come back up. All that stuff can be adjusted as part of saying, hey, we want to vote, the housing's great, but we want to make rehab as forced into this. And that's a great way to do it, you know?
Sean, a question, and that's a great point you're bringing up with putting them in place, is that we're now in the midst of I guess there's a homeless campaign going around town where all these groups are coming out to different communities. Yesterday they were in the Valley Village Neighborhood Council. You gentlemen, you're in this. You see this every single day. We're being told that the majority of these people that are out on the streets are just victims of circumstance. They've got this snow and the rain driven on top of them. They just need a place to live and a shelter. And we see it. We live it every single day. We walk down the street, we encounter it. Please, gentlemen, is the majority of the people that you encounter that are homeless in our vicinity here typically have ailments such as drug addiction and other things, aside from just being victims of the housing market?
Town as well? Are they from
Let's
in town, out of town?
let's bring this out so we can finally maybe counter the mayor's agenda and say, well, here we have the people that are on the front lines. Please.
Okay, I with this question, I gotta be very careful how I answer it.
Oh,
and
there you go, people.
I'm just saying it's just because I have I'll let you know this. So like, I have not been outside of North Hollywood area for 20 years of my career, except if I have to go for a radio call or something like that. So I'm very, very well astute to this area. So what I see, you know, I can't speak for the rest part of the city. So to cover myself.
Sorry I put you in this position.
No, right. But from what I see in this area, the majority of not the people living in cars, but the majority of the people living in the camps and stuff like that suffer from some kind of substance abuse. And most of them do not take outreach when offered upon them. So I do not, and we are not allowed to ask people where they come from. They took that ability away from us a couple months ago. I don't know why. You would have to ask the powers that be why they did that. But we have these filled information cards that we've had forever, and part of it was, where were you born, where this. And just so you know, like when it comes to the immigration thing, LAPD's never forced any type of immigration. We never have, at least since Gates passed the thing clear back in the early 80s, that we have not done anything like that. So I've been a cop for 21 years. The only time we ever reported to INS is when somebody was a deported felon for a violent crime, and they're back in, we had them in custody for something else. We tell them, oh, by the way, this person's also here again, but not for just coming back, not for crossing the border illegally and get put back to whatever country they were. Right. We've never enforced anything like that. And that's been like that for a long time. And I don't know about other cities. I haven't worked for another city, but I can tell you LA's always been like that. As far as I've been here.
One of the things, had an office in Santa Monica, and what I found is that the different municipalities just send, they'll give $20 to a homeless person and put them in a cab and say, go to Studio City or go to whatever.
So I can tell you this.
They just keep.
I do have a story so I talk to people, and I'm not allowed to ask where they come from. Through conversation, this gentleman from Iowa and I were talking. He's a nice guy, and I have friends from Iowa. We're just talking about Iowa. And I just happened to ask him why he came out here. I mean, what brought him out here? I didn't ask him where he's from, so on video, I never asked him where he's from, and it's on video too, but I never asked him. He told me, and he happened to say that he's going to court multiple times in Iowa, and the court told him if you took a Greyhound ticket to LA and stayed out of Iowa for 2 years, that they would drop charges. So, I mean, does that happen out here? Yes. And then he told me he loves it out here, so.
Why not Las Vegas?
Yeah, why not?
And then now we're showering and giving them.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wonder if we're going to transition into the next part of this. I came.
Yeah, we are
going to
transition right now.
So maybe I could kick it off by well, why don't you kick it off, and then I'll.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it very much that you came out tonight. We will share the email addresses as I promised. I have the sign-in sheet, and I will make sure we'll share the councilman's office, the officers here tonight. You'll have my contact, the transportation committee, and hopefully we'll start to build a groundswell, and you'll get your community, the local neighbors, and build some momentum there. I do think it's possible. Did you have one last?
Yes, a direct
Very
traffic
fast.
question directly related to what this was supposed to be about. Sir, can you tell me, we have a lot of what sounds like street racing up and down Ventura Boulevard in the middle of the night. Are you or any other traffic officers patrolling, kind of in the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. kind of time frame?
Okay, I'm gonna have a two-part answer to your question. First off, we just started this month, they're coming online this coming month, a street racing task force that's gonna be working all hours of the night and all through the weekends, looking for these cars that are making a lot of noise and racing. We've had, it's a new hot button topic within the LAPD. They've assigned 4 motor officers, 2 patrol cars, and then on Friday and Saturday nights, they're taking 1 police officer from every division on loan for that night to work the street racing problem in their area. So with that being said, it comes online, what's today? Sunday. So Sunday will be the first day out. We've had this task force before. It comes and goes. It seems to be a summer issue mostly because the weather's nicer, I would suppose. The second part of that question is sound. I've been lucky enough to been through a sound course for an off-road issue thing. Sound is a funny issue. What's loud to us per se isn't loud to like the machine, and a lot of it has to do with duration. The state legal decibel limit for cars is 95 decibels. Most cars, if you drive a Prius, for example, or a Toyota Corolla, it's like 50 decibels. Much, much quieter than some of these high-performance sports cars that we're seeing here on Ventura Boulevard. It's very hard to enforce the loud cars. The ticket that they get, they have to go to the state referee, and a lot of times what's loud to me isn't loud to the machine, like I said before, as I bring that back into it. And the ticket gets thrown out. So, like I said, it's a difficult thing to enforce. We are gonna be seeing some more enforcement with street racing stuff here in the near future. I'm excited to see how it goes. So, I hope that answered some of your questions.
Thank you.
Do you know why street racing has increased?
I don't. I wish I could tell you, but it's been a problem in the valley. I grew up in Sonotahunga. Van Nuys Boulevard, I know in the 70s was a huge street racing thing. It's gone through the valley everywhere. I think it just has to do with locations, social media.
You've got 3 or 4 reality shows.
But in the San Fernando Valley, street racing's been around since before my time, way before my time. So.
We have to wrap this. We're going to wrap this up.
Do you have DV meters with you?
We do, but they need to be done in a controlled environment. Me doing it on the street isn't enough to write that ticket. So, we were granted some, and we quickly found out that to get them into a controlled environment doesn't really work. So for us,
We'll say, I love it when you do it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So we're going to move on to agenda number 6. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Bryan. I'm going to read the motion in its entirety, and then I'd like to keep it a little free-flowing. Let's keep the comments condensed. Let's look at the language. Let's come up with some ideas. If this motion passes tonight, then it moves on to the broader full board and to discuss it further. But let's see what we could make of this. Mayor Eric Garcetti and Councilman Paul Krekorian have failed to listen to the local community concerns and apply the necessary pressure for adequate law enforcement in our neighborhood. Therefore, as stakeholders desperately seek new options for protection, the Studio City Neighborhood Council recommends setting up an exploratory committee to research the feasibility of applying a 1% yearly property tax addition with max yearly contribution of $144 that would be set aside from all Studio City residential and business property owners falling under the zip codes 91602, 91604, and 91607 to cover the expenses of off-duty officers or private security to serve as patrol and added enforcement across the entire community. This support will be supplemental to the continued oversight of the understaffed and under-resourced LAPD North Hollywood Division. The model of private patrol has been used effectively in other U.S. cities, and this local alternative is a necessary step as the concerns of Studio City and the entire East Valley community are currently ignored. To avoid further quality of life erosion, we recommend setting up this exploratory committee to determine next steps and advise on proper oversight. We are confident the success of this initiative will reverberate across neighborhoods within the San Fernando Valley facing similar issues in the area of crime. So the first person I'm going to have speak tonight is actually this motion, this idea bubbled up from a stakeholder who is joining us. And Rachel Tobias,
Yes.
right? If you could speak to this and where the idea came from and how we got going here.
I am originally from New Orleans, which is, if you know, one of maybe the top 5 dangerous cities in America, usually, always. I grew up in an area that, it's called Lakeview. It's near Lake Pontchartrain, and they had a rise in crime. I mean, New Orleans always has crime, but they had a rise of theft, auto burglary, theft in general, that police were having hard, the responses were down and police were not getting to people in time. So what they did is they implemented a security district in the area. It was kind of a gerrymandered part of Lakeview, and were able to reduce crime by 500%. And response time normally would take 20 minutes. It was reduced to 8.5 in response.
Was this a 24-hour supplement?
24-hour supplement. they kept it on. It was not meant to be like an abdication of responsibility of the role of the city, but it's been so successful that it's been in existence now for 20 years.
Well, no, they can only have a few officers out here. It's like, makes sense.
Yeah.
And you also shared some articles, additional cities across the country have.
Yeah, Chicago had a Margate Park. Their crime dropped 21% in a 5-year period. I'm sorry, I didn't write any other cities down, but if you type in security districts, a bunch of things will come up on Google.
So you had a comment. Thank you very much for the idea and bringing it to the attention.
Yeah, so my comment, is really this. I've been to a couple of meetings, I'm following the notes, I watch the videos when I can't make it in person. I appreciate the discourse about homelessness, about the problems we're seeing, but my number one responsibility as a father is to protect my family and provide a safe environment for my family. I spent a lot of money to live in Colfax Meadows. I spend a lot of money on armed response and security companies and post patrol and ADP, and I'm fine spending the money because my number one responsibility is to provide a safe environment for my family. We heard about a butcher knife at Vaughn's. We've heard about it at Ralph's. We've heard all the stories. I've heard all the stories. I've seen the posts on next door. The police response time is a problem. They're understaffed. We know that. One car, I've heard the statistics. One car for Studio City, 6 cars at the maximum time for 25 square miles. I've called the police twice in 10 years I've lived here. And I also moved from New York City. So I know, I moved from a place where they have crime. I called the police twice, and they showed up neither time. So, when you have issues that they cannot respond to, you feel alone. It feels dangerous. Your family is scared. You have your family walking a dog on the street with a wife carrying a baseball bat. She took a video of somebody the other day with a metal pipe following a woman with a baby carriage, and she felt like she had to help and be there for that woman. This is a quarter of a mile away from here. So that's the number one priority for me. And I don't care if they're homeless. I don't care if they live in a car. If they're carrying a metal pipe threatening someone, if they're shooting up on my street, if they're defecating, urinating on my street, if they're exposing themselves to children on my street, we have to stop it. The government is not stopping it. So I appreciate this. What are we going to do? That's what I want to know.
Greg, I got something for you on that.
Thank you.
So at Police Advisory Board, we are highly preoccupied with questions like this. And you're right, it is a problem. So in contemplating speaking to our elected officials, particularly David Brew and Paul Krekorian, and Mayor Garcetti, I have here from Paul Krekorian his take on the homeless situation. Now, we know what we know anecdotally, but he offers some statistics, and they are not entirely plausible. But he says that homelessness is a homegrown issue. I'm reading. 3 out of 4 homeless people lived in Los Angeles before becoming homeless. That is down, during the homeless summit, they said it was 91%. So now they're saying 3 out of 4, so that number is changing. They also say, you go on to say, and I won't go on too long, less than 27% of the homeless population suffers from some sort of mental illness, and only 15% are plagued by substance abuse. This is from Paul Krekorian's office. 15% is less than the general population of the United States, where people who have homes are much more likely, according to this, to suffer from substance abuse than the homeless people. So the city's line is that it's a real estate problem. It's not a mental illness problem. It's not a drug or an alcohol issue, substance abuse problem. It's not a misbehavior problem. It's not a crime problem. It's strictly a real estate problem. That's the political safe harbor. The reason is that homeless advocates, and here's the key point, homeless advocates are much stronger than the community because they are lawyers and they're extremely good at what they do. And I keep telling the advisory board, the homeless advocates are 4 steps ahead of us. They sue. Every time we try to bring something to the city and say this is a problem, they sue the city and they win. So the city's terrified and they run as far as they can towards homeless advocacy and away from your interests and away from public safety. And
But what's happening in Koreatown where they're actually fighting back with masks?
This gentleman has a right to be safe in Colfax Meadows. I have a right to be safe in Studio City. And whether it's a traffic problem or it's a homeless
Sir.
problem, it doesn't matter.
Ben is,
I'm finishing up.
Okay.
I don't know who you voted for. It's not my business. I vote every time. And, I look back at who I voted for, and I even voted for Prop 47, and I feel like a complete idiot doing that because I didn't read it either, and I'm supposed to know this. But we keep voting a certain way. And Paul Krekorian, David Rue, they respond to who votes. And they may get surprised because the voter turnout is so low that there's an opposing party out there that has a much better record of voting. So there may be a shock here in Los Angeles at some point. And it could be a shock similar to the presidential election of 18 months ago, where these politicians just are running as far as they can towards the safe harbor, which is further and further away from our interests because we vote a certain way. So we have to change the way we vote. It doesn't mean we have to change our party affiliation, our ideology, our worldview, anything like that. But we had 22% voter turnout. They're not afraid of us. When we have 60% voter turnout, everything starts to change, and all of a sudden they're out of a job. And somebody who has no experience in city government, by the way, just like our president has no experience in being a politician, is now in power. And it could be chaotic, but it's going to be a change. So we have to let them know. So I'm meeting with Senator Hertzberg tomorrow. He just won the primary. He's going to hear about all of this at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So that concludes my comments.
and on that note, thank you, Ben. Senator Hertzberg is expected at the July Studio City Neighborhood Council meeting on the third Wednesday of July. He will be there. He will answer questions. So I encourage you to come out. But let's get back to this topic. I want to hear the thoughts in the room. I want to hear the thoughts of the committee members. Anyone else want to address any point here?
Could I just ask, your name is Brian, you say?
Benjamin.
Benjamin, I'm sorry. In terms of the voting, I can't agree more. And a lot of the times, like this last proposition we had, where they wanted to redirect the gasoline tax to make sure that it went to the highway, when you look further into it, because everybody voted for that, but when you look further into it, it said highway or transportation, which meant that it went for the speed train to up north. So nobody ever read that part, they voted for it. But my question is, where can we go to get advice on these people we've never heard of, judges, school people, all that?
That's a great question. I really don't know. It's not my field of expertise, but you're already on the right track because you have to read all the way down the ticket. And I don't know. My attention span isn't so great, so I've like I said, I've made mistakes voting. But I'm as I get more and more into community service, and I've been doing it now on and off 10 years. It started right here in this room, by the way, Studio City Neighborhood Council. I really don't have an answer for you. I think that we're on our own. And when you're a citizen and a taxpayer and a stakeholder, there's nobody there for you. If you're homeless or you're a criminal, there's a lot of people to help you. So that's just the way it is.
There's one point I want to make about that, because we're getting to a point when we get those wonderful pamphlets in the mail, they're full of double truths, semantics, and lies. So your question is, will you stop lying to us?
Exactly.
Will you stop lying to
That
us?
should be the facts in the pamphlet.
Right, because those pamphlets are like, that's the gold standard, right? You're supposed to believe the pamphlet. You're going to get tons of crap mail, but you're going to believe that pamphlet, at least the pro and the con. Those pamphlets are slanted.
Okay, how can we get those changed to be the facts?
I hate to
Concise
say
facts.
this. I hate to say this.
Not 37 pages, concise facts.
The agenda of a state and our city and our county is what rules and what reigns. So they will have those pamphlets reflect what they want you to hear. Even though they're going to do like those semantics about the speed train, the money's being diverted. I hate to say it, and we can make a change, but we're so mirrored in gallons of the BS that we have to start somewhere and say, you know what, you lied to us, and have our local representative like Krekorian and our councilman and Hertzberg. Hopefully, he won't tax us when he sees us on our next visit. These tax expend people. just say, you know, you're very disenchanted with how he's been up there and in Sacramento letting this stuff happen and without any redress. So you give him a piece of your mind at our next meeting. Don't let the guy just come in and smile at us and give you a nice big hug. No hugs, because we're tired of being lied to, because our decisions are on those booklets. It's not how deep you read into it, because you're reading complete BS.
Right, so there's an old shortcut, there's a joke about these propositions, goes back, this is my 40th year in California. Just vote no on everything, every time.
Because there's always a special interest behind it.
The thing that's so unusual about you talking and us talking is you're saying out loud what all of us are feeling, and none of us are willing to shout it out because of other people shouting back at you and telling you you're stupid and a racist.
Right. Just a quick point about the bullet.
That's beside the point.
Okay, I just have to say, I think what we have to do is chip away at this situation from a completely, like, hit them blindsided. And I have a couple of ideas for that. I've mentioned this before. Not call it a homeless crisis anymore or a affordability housing crisis anymore. You have to call it a public health catastrophe, all right? And county health has to put skin in the game, all right? It's completely inhumane to have someone who's suffering from multiple chronic illnesses, including addiction disease, to have them live on the street. You wouldn't have someone who has hemophilia, bleeding. You take them to a hospital, that's the humane way to treat them. But here's another thing. There's a department in LA called the LA Department of Aging, which is really well financed, and they do an amazing job of taking care of, there's a very large population of older people, 65 and older in Los Angeles, but let's just say 55, 50 and older. I say that we engage that department to screen as best as you can the transient population and get all older people into housing, okay? To protect our senior citizens, okay? Another thing to do.
Not a bad idea.
I know, it's a good idea. Southern California has the largest concentration of rehab centers that is covered by insurance in the country. They advertise around the country. They come here, they get 6 weeks of rehab that insurance or CMS pays for, and then they open the door. They get a one-way ticket, a bus ticket. I say that they have to, we should pay not the $144 extra taxation for people. We'll buy them the bus ticket home. Let their communities deal with them.
But our politicians deny it's happening. They're stonewalling us. They're saying, "Nuh-uh, it's not happening. We have the population count. We have the evidence to say that it's not true."
You have to switch the conversation to public health.
That's a good idea.
Okay, it's 100% public
Okay,
health.
Marcia,
Yeah.
this is the agenda items. Everyone, let's take a breath for a second here, okay? And Marcia, as a committee member, I need you to keep the focus on the topic at hand.
Yeah.
Okay? If you have a point, and this is the point I made earlier, and this is to everyone on the committee. If you have a motion or if you have an idea, it's great for the soundbite, but either do something about it or send me the motion like Rachel did, and let's get it on the agenda and let's get it voted on and let's actually do things we could tackle. We're not going to solve the homeless crisis in this room. We're not going to solve mental health. But maybe we could get a few more patrols in the neighborhood. That's my opinion.
Yes. I have a question on the motion. Is there, I appreciate this gentleman was talking about wanting to keep the neighborhood safe, and I'm with you. And obviously homelessness is a piece of that. I mean, you see that everywhere. My question is, and maybe you know from the research you've done, I mean, this is an open question. Is there a fear that you kind of allow the police to abdicate their responsibility to be enforcing someone's safety? I mean, you've got one argument, which is, right, we'll get more police officers and make them enforce more, get them over the streets. But if you do something like this, do you take that away? And I don't have an answer. I'm just
So in our neighborhood up in Wrightwood Estates, we live on Wrightwood Lane, the community got together in that area. Wrightwood Lane, I forget the streets that cross us, and we decided, they got together and we had a vote, and we hired a private security firm. Each house pays $50 a month to pay for an extra patrol of, I forget the name of the patrol company, but they patrol the service. Post, right.
We use that in Colfax Meadows as well.
They run around our little area up there, and they work full-time for us, or whatever it is, they have one guy around. But, you know, we had a guy walk into our gate, he rang the bell, Stace let him in, he walked in, and I said, what do you want? And he said, oh, I'm selling books. And then I said, turn around, there's the door. And as soon as I looked at the door, the post truck was right there. So they had been following him around the neighborhood, and they had been tracking him. So that's how we keep that area
And
safe.
the community discusses it.
Yeah.
We tell each other right away. We really do work as a community.
And are you seeing an improvement in?
Huge.
Because I am hearing improvements in other neighborhoods. For everyone who's not familiar, post security is the security that most of the neighborhoods in Studio City is using. It's definitely used in Colfax Meadows and in Wrightwood.
Landale Square.
Thank you, Landau. I was trying to think of it. It has been effective. I've seen it in our condo. There has been improvements.
Yeah,
Is your name Mark?
Ron, I'm Ron.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, yeah, we have Post, as well. Fantastic, the response time, 5 to 8 minutes most times. Better than anybody. I mean, I have both, so I can tell when they show up. But here's the thing, out of all of the houses in Colfax Meadows, and they combine a couple of adjoining neighborhoods, we have a patrol once every 4 hours. Out of all the houses, we have 44 houses signed up. And there's hundreds of houses, maybe over 1,000 houses in that one small area. If we can get 100 houses, we can get a patrol, we can get a dedicated car for the area.
Right.
Now, all of this, I appreciate your comments, I appreciate your comments, I appreciate your comments, but this is a results-oriented business. I've lived there for 10 years. Nothing is happening. We need results. It doesn't matter. I have Post, I have ADT. Again, metal pipe, 2 days ago. Butcher knife, sounds like last week. We need results. That is what's going to keep us safe. And a deterrent is what we need. We're never going to get a deterrent from LAPD. There's no way they can afford to do that. One car could turn into 6 cars in Studio City. Maybe that's a deterrent. But
I'll
that's
take
not-
that.
That's not going to happen.
Once you pass Prop
So-
47, you've decriminalized crime and
that's-
made it legal to
so-
rob anything under
We voted
$1,000.
for it, yeah.
So we have all of
I
these
didn't.
problems we can't solve, right? One problem we could solve is, let's do this.
I like the
Let's get some cars in our neighborhood to detour between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. every single night. In my immediate area, there's multiple car thefts, burglaries, whatever. They're breaking into cars. We've had push-in burglaries. We have knock-knock burglaries. We've had, it's every night. We know who they are because we're stepping over them on Ventura Boulevard. We go to our restaurants on Ventura Boulevard. They're empty. This is not just a problem. This is safety. Number 2, how about the biggest investment you've made in your life? Your house. How about that? How about your property value? How about losing, this is a great idea. If we can actually do it for $144 a year. By the way, that's less than Post is per year, right?
I don't think I would get rid of posts
I wouldn't
either.
get rid of
I'll
Post
keep
either.
that as well.
But let's think about what happens if your house value goes down 2%. What is that going to cost you?
Exactly.
This is a no-brainer. We have to focus on results if we want this to be a safe area, and we have to protect our families, we have to protect our investments. And by the way, I'd like to take my family to the counter for a burger without being accosted by dangerous drug abusers and the rest.
Patty had a comment?
The words in here are desperately seek new options. We need to create emotion and results. So, I'm gathering that we're all kind of really like this motion, but to get this motion pushed further, you have to show up to the neighborhood council meeting to back it up. You know, we have to have a hearing of people supporting whatever we decide tonight at the neighborhood council meeting to take that next step.
And remember, the next step, if it passes and passes again, it's to start an exploratory committee, to say someone from Colfax Meadows has had success with Post. Do we use Post? Do we connect with Wrightwood Estates? And we figure out a way that more homes, and not just 44, because that's pretty unacceptable.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just one more thing. I got a call from Jessica because I sent a letter to Krekorian that said, here's my issue, and I know in my area, and I'm sure there's some in the room, all we are business owners, marketing people, social media people, digital marketing people, lawyers, doctors. So I said to him in the letter, basically, like, we will mount a campaign if you do not address this. You will be out of office. So we can do that. So tell us what we have to do, give us the message, let's figure out, let's empower the people. We have the best marketing people in the world within a mile of this office. Let's deploy these people and turn 44 people into 144 people.
Peter.
Well, I applaud your effort here. I just, let me back up. So, speaking to the motion, how many here are familiar with how much Measure HHH thinks is an appropriate amount to spend on permanent supportive housing? Does everybody know?
460,000 per unit.
Exactly, 400 to 600,000 per unit. So now we're going to entrust the same entity to take our $144, dole it out to a company that's actually going to service us, as opposed to someone who's going to make a campaign contribution, or they'll figure out, like, they'll hire someone for $100,000 a year and a retirement benefit to oversee this.
But remember, we're looking. Go ahead, finish.
So thinking this all the way through, how do us control this $144?
Well, yeah, possibly starting an HOA committee for the neighborhood.
But that it comes out of property tax. So once it's in property tax, you kind of like giving it away to the general fund.
From in New Orleans, it was from taxes, correct? Or
It's a tax, or a parcel fee. When you're paying your taxes at the end of the year, it's an additional $100.
I must be stupid or something, because the last stats that I saw is that California has 25% of the homeless of the nation. So how is building houses and the word getting out to other homeless people around the nation going to keep the 25% to go to 40% or 50%, when they say, hey, we can go to California, they can't do anything to us on the street, can't arrest us for drugs, we're breaking into houses, and they're going to give us a house to live in now. How is that a deterrent to keep the homeless down?
Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, we're equating homelessness with crime, and those are two separate things. Yes, there are people who are homeless who cause crimes, but it's also not just the homeless. I see people on the Ring app who are people driving up in a car, grabbing packages, and then leaving. It's not just homeless people that are causing these crimes.
That is fair.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the increase. There's an increase because of the.
There's absolutely a correlation, and it's a.
I'm
yes.
speaking to
Alex,
the actual.
go ahead. Keep it to this.
Yeah, I will. I just want to mention, I completely reflect and share your feelings. Completely. I think we all do. For crying out loud, I want to walk to the store with I don't have a daughter, but it would just tear my heart out if I did to see that. The thing is that let's start at the top with this BS bamboozled Prop 47 that we were sold about. Hey man, it's only a joint. Don't we want to let these people out? Yeah, let's do it, man. Great, we went for it. Of course, they screwed us. They lied to us. If there is no law that will keep people, you remember the movie Death Wish? Anyways, poor Charles Bronson. No. Anyway, these were people that literally came up to you and they would just toy with you. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Hey, buddy, what are you going to do about it? Do we really feel that supplemental amount of money that we're going to be charged? With all due respect, I believe the city should do it, and I believe we should go to critical mass until they wake up and do it, because that's really our problem. We have the resources. We are one of the top tax cities in the country. I think number 3, top tax state as well. We have the poorest education at the bottom. We have the poorest quality of life. We have one of the highest criminal rates here. The point is that I can give you $500. I'll give you $1,000. How do we ensure that this money is not going to be pissed away like it always is and used for another point? My last point is that if we don't start at the top with Prop 47, where we basically decriminalize crimes, nothing is going to stop. And you mentioned it. We're going to be at 40% of homelessness and criminal levels very, very soon. I think this is a great idea. But the point is that we have to start at the top and say, stop creating more recessivity.
So I know this isn't a debate.
No.
But, and we agree, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will add that my observation is this. Changing 11% voter rate to 25% to 30%, fantastic, let's do it.
Yep.
You know, all these ideas, fantastic. None of it is gonna help us for 1 year, 2 years, maybe, if it works, if people vote the right way. We need to do something that can stop this increase now. Our property values are gonna be affected now. And the homeless conversation, if you take away the source of income, if you take away the opportunity to break into houses and petty burglaries and panhandling and doing, like, if you harass them, the people who belong in a shelter should go to a shelter. But the people who are carrying steel pipes and exposing themselves, if you can take away, we're sitting here like sitting ducks. So we need something to please help us deter this crime and these people from just picking on our neighborhood. It's that simple. It's more simple. 11 to 25%. You guys are experts. Complicated. I'm all for it. I'll do whatever I can to help. But we need something right now.
Okay, I just have to say, I think that when, and I don't know about the city of New Orleans or how the parishes work there or the state of Louisiana, but in California, I'm new. I've only been here 20 years. Everything goes to referendum, and if there's going to be any type of taxation without representation, I mean, it has to go to the voter. So you can't call it a property tax. That directly goes to the county
So
assessor's
help me
office.
change the words. Help get this through. Make some recommendations.
That's why we see the private.
Here's a recommendation. Why doesn't this committee help connect the neighborhoods? I think this gentleman or these two were saying they live up on Wrightwood Lane, okay? And they've gotten certain number of houses together and they pay a fee. Well, I live on Wrightwood Place. It's like, I didn't know they existed. Now, maybe in Wrightwood Place, which is only 2 streets down, I think, or something, it's like, okay, maybe we'll get on with Post, it'll reduce your costs a little bit, and then it'll expand.
And that's why we're here tonight,
Well,
and that's why this motion is on here.
And I have to
Exactly.
say, we have an expert here on communities and community safety, and that's Patty Kirby, because she is the master of Neighborhood Watch.
Right.
So she actually knows about which communities are very safety-centric, and she knows the patchwork of where that is. So I think that she's a key
Jenny,
resource.
did you know about these folks here? Okay.
We're all friends and we have parties and we all know each other.
Well,
We're in the business together.
Yeah, so what we need to do is organize the neighborhoods and start small, one neighborhood at a time, and create this emotion and get attention. We need attention.
We need attention. Okay.
So,
Ma'am?
well, okay, the way, everybody please, the way we need to do is organize through the neighborhood council with a motion that will get attention at the main board meeting. We have to make it reasonable so that they will pay attention, but we have to make it so that they'll also vote for it.
I always think that, I don't believe that they deserve the housing, because then it's like, do they get a maid with that too? Like, who's gonna clean up after them?
That's a different
Well, we're not
proposition.
talking about that, right?
I think that there should be like a large area away from here where they all go, where they have a safe place they get a place to sleep, they get a shower, they get food, and in order to get out of that area and they get their freedom, I believe they have to take a class, they have to sign up for a program that allows them to be rehabilitated. And if they don't want to sign up for that program, they stay there till they're ready to get their freedom. But we're giving them their freedom. They haven't really earned it. They do detriments to hardworking citizens, and people work too hard to go in a safe neighborhood, and they shouldn't be allowed in the clean neighborhood that people have worked hard for. They should go to a place maybe that was more industrial, and where they could earn their way to be here.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to, did you call me?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to speak to item number 6, the
Thank you.
item on the agenda. And, excuse me, I'd like to speak. I'm sorry.
What is item 6?
Item 6 is what we're trying to discuss here, which is according to the Brown Act, the only thing we can be discussing here is, would you like to read the motion? It is a
read the
motion
motion.
to investigate ways to, I'm paraphrasing.
Exploratory committee to look into a way of adding supplemental patrol.
Yes. So I'd like to comment on that.
Yes, please.
Okay, and I'd also like to say, I'm sorry for being a little bit harsh here. I don't remember any of you folks from this meeting a month ago, nor the neighborhood council meeting a week ago, when the homeless issue was.
There were some, to be fair.
Was steamrollered over by people, by experts from the city and expert volunteers who told us all that we were just imagining it. They told us flat out, as opposed to what the officer told us. Told us flat out, as opposed to what the officer told us, that it is a myth that people come here from other states. And that is what the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, that's the way they voted a week ago. So I'm gonna get off that because I promised you I wanted to talk,
Yes, please.
right about number 6. That is a different subject. You need to come to those meetings and make your voices
When
heard
are
there. They are once a month on the third Thursday of every
Third
month.
Wednesday of every month.
Wednesday.
We're made aware of these, they would probably attend.
Okay, so on item number 6, if I can.
Yes, please.
Okay, I agree with the idea of the exploratory committee. I do not agree with the idea of a $144 additional tax on us. Among other things, I would sincerely doubt, I'm not a lawyer, I would sincerely doubt that the Studio City Neighborhood Council has any power whatsoever to enact a tax or a homeowners association fee or anything similar on the general population of Studio City.
It would have to be on the ballot.
It would have to be on a state.
We have to start somewhere.
Okay,
That's my only argument. You're 100% right.
okay, so I'm fine with the idea.
It's an idea, it's a good idea.
With the idea, but the additional tax portion, I am giving my opinion,
Yes?
I'm against that idea.
Well, maybe we make that step 2.
Okay.
If I could
Let me
just
look at the
say,
language.
In terms of private patrols, I've been here for 20 years. I've heard all the wonderful things about Post. I've also heard a bunch of grumbling about Post. In my experience, I've been with several patrol companies in 20 years. What I found is they all come in. I talked to the Post guy who was going door to door in my neighborhood. He was a great salesman, okay? What I found with all of these companies is they start off for a little bit and they're fine. And what happens is.
But then you can fire them and find somebody else. It's not a state government. I mean, you just, if they don't do their job, you fire them.
Hear this guy, please.
They get bought out and then.
So you fire them. There are other companies. That's the wonder of the free market. It actually works.
I think that's a great proposition.
You know, they come out,
I
they have a right to discuss. No problem. You're welcome. Okay, let's keep this focus on the motion.
Motion passed anywhere.
Focus on the motion, but has anyone talked about privatizing?
Well, that's
Okay.
what we could potentially have with an Explorer, absolutely. Right. Okay, so do we think taking out the feasibility, to research the feasibility of additional private security to service patrol, taking out some of the language about the taxing?
Just for now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just for now, and then if there is an exploratory committee, then we could dive into it and figure out a solution.
A different word.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So I'll just read that sentence and give me 1 second.
Maybe we can have funds relocated by the city? I mean, could we?
Well, that's
Yeah,
another
funds
whole-
reallocated, right.
We need to do something now.
Yeah,
do.
we'll talk about that in the further, once that smaller committee, and then all the ideas of ways to get this off the ground.
We want our money directed here.
Xanax?
We have to create a succession movement again.
Well, that's another point.
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, guys.
We have no police.
We got a lot
we
of
have no
attention when we
schools.
were doing that.
The problem with homelessness, though, is not, it's rent control. You have rent control, which makes it tough for builders. Why build low-income housing? Downtown, they're building tons of high-income housing, massive. They're going up daily. Rent control is the worst thing you can do to renters. I mean, overall, it just doesn't.
And why doesn't
builders do not
Burbank
come in,
make
they do
have
not
these
build.
problems?
I know, I'm trying to.
Because so that's one problem. What the government's doing is they're gonna come in, they're gonna start through Section 8 housing, subsidized housing in these small communities. They're gonna build it out, and that's what's gonna happen to this community, just like Valley Village, where I was last night. I listened to them talk about it for 3 hours. So that's where we're headed, folks. And it's time to change the direction of the
Well,
government.
why isn't the ACLU in Burbank?
What?
Why isn't the ACLU at Burbank? I
It's better
believe a
because
lot of
it's
this
just sounds like it's more
narrative
community.
is
research,
made to sell us on something. Because these neighboring communities don't have these problems,
I didn't mean to push
for whatever that
All for
means.
housing the whole families.
Putting it out
People
there.
that want to be healthy, but this is something else. This is
You know,
gigantic.
you brought up Burbank, right?
Yes.
So why doesn't Burbank have it? I don't know, but how many police cars do they have for a 25 square mile area? Number one. Number two, when you deter crime from one area, guess where it goes? To the area next door. Guess who's next door to Burbank? We are.
The highway patrolman last night told me that the homeless downtown
More per capita though.
and migrating north. They're migrating to Malibu, Venice, all the areas.
Place of least resistance, man. That's where everyone
They
comes.
want to clean up downtown so it's just, they're moving.
I'd move here.
Okay. Do we need the second part, or?
73% of our budget is fire and police. It's the highest percentage of any industrialized city in the world. We're mismanaged, misspent, neglected, secession.
There is a model.
Smaller is better. Oh, that's my wife.
We made a tweak. I'll just read the first part because we do want to get this passed and we want to keep this.
Everyone, hello.
Let's just wrap this up.
Are you gonna give me time to talk?
You didn't raise your hand. Okay, Mark Rubin. Okay, my apologies. Okay, everyone. All right. Nigel?
Yes?
Please state your comment. Thank you for being patient.
Okay. My name is Nigel Brent. I live in Studio City. And the thing that everybody is missing is the way to get things done is to bombard the politicians that are making the rules. Now, one of the things is the parking of RVs on public roads. The law does not allow people to live in the parked RVs, and yet they are all lived in. The meeting should inform them that the police are powerless to remove the RVs so parked, as in many cases the tow trucks are refusing to tow them away due to the requirements imposed on them for towing them away. The thing that is missing is that there's so much public waste that we allow to happen. For instance, on a daily basis, I see dash buses running with almost no passengers. How much was this operation going to cost? After 5 years ago, it has obviously run its course. It would be cheaper for the few riders who use it to have Uber or Lyft take them to their destination. Has a cost analysis been done to see if we're getting a fair price for this operation? I doubt it. Now, today, as always, the solution to help the police is to raise taxes, yet again, as this meeting is being asked to approve, rather than curing the public waste that, if enacted, would cost more than to cover the extra police expenses. I also would like to just mention the high-speed train, because I believe somebody was going to mention it. How much is that costing us taxpayers? It's going to take 200 years.
The train is not on the agenda. We don't have to get into the train.
Excuse me, you said I would have.
Yeah, but we're diverting from
I'm not diverting from it. I'm saying that taxpayers' money is being wasted on those types of operations that if they were reined in, would cover the extra cost of the police. But the problem with the situation with the police is that most of the things that we would like the police to do are powerless to do it. And that's the real problem. And the only way you're going to cure it is not to ask us to pay more tax money, but to address the problem. And the problem is that money is being wasted by the council that could easily pay for extra police. But even if you've got extra police, the problem is that the power of the police is being taken away constantly.
Okay.
They're not allowed to knock on the door of a homeless person.
We have removed the taxing part from this motion right now. Okay? There was a couple more comments that Mark Rubin, is Mark Rubin still here?
He went out. I have a comment. You know, the monies for the homeless shelter, in CD2, there's supposed to be a shelter, and I think the logical location is 7600 Tyrone. So if we get this shelter, they're supposed to, the city is supposed to give more money or hours for the police, not an increase in police, but more overtime, I suppose, to protect the area. Maybe we could make it so they protect all of the CD too.
Okay. I see where you're getting at, but
And there will be, since I think only 5 or 6 council people spoke up for the homeless shelter money, the balance funds of the council districts that are not raising their hands and volunteering, that money is supposed to go to the districts that volunteered the properties.
Thank you.
And that includes the policing.
So speaking to a change on the motion, I just
Yeah, but
wonder
let's
if-
keep it.
I let people come out to the meeting. I want.
So I wonder if, to get it past the board, we may want to not hang the mayor and the councilman out to dry at the front of this, only because just like some people vote party lines, other people have, relationships with those offices. And we may want to go to those offices and try and get funds from them for this. So, maybe you make that more generic.
Well, kind of in response to that, I'm wondering kind of the purpose of the motion, really, because if the purpose of the motion is to say to the politicians, listen, you're not doing the community the service that you should be doing the community. You're not moving on this. You're not putting the resources behind this, and this problem just continues to grow. And you really don't have a realistic chance of ever getting this tax put in place, but really this is a message to be sent, and this is a vehicle to send that message, then you ought to call out the politicians.
There are funds available at the council office that can be directed where the council is.
Maybe there should be a motion to
I
recall
think
Krekorian.
the board,
Coming from
in trying to reword it before we go to a vote, we are going to keep that sentence in. I'll just read the first paragraph very, very quickly. Mayor Eric, if you have it in front of you, I'll paraphrase. So Mayor Eric Garcetti part, all the way to feasibility, setting up an exploratory committee to research the feasibility for covering the expenses of off-duty officers or private security to serve as patrol and added enforcement across the entire community. This support will be supplemental to the continued oversight, et cetera. So we're removing the middle section of applying 1% property tax. As if it gets approved and there's an ad hoc committee, we could get into the nuts and bolts how we can get this off the ground.
Can I ask a question? This is something that it goes against my principles as far as supplementing what the city should be doing. We all talked about that. I would love to add something in there that says, please let us know why 73% of the city budget is going to police and fire, yet we don't have adequate police coverage. Why aren't we asking the questions that need to be asked? Where is the money going? We have the highest tax rate of any city. Why don't we have coverage? I need answers. Is that a bad idea to ask for the answers?
I think that's the better question.
Why don't we have coverage? Where are the police? Show me the mathematics. Show me the stats. How many people do you have? How much are they making?
Sounds like a great
How
motion.
much?
I want to see it at the next public
all right.
safety.
So
write it up and send it
I
to
will
me.
do that. Thank you.
Heard that. We're on video. Okay? Are you going to remember?
Yeah, of course.
I just had a neighbor right next door to me for 50 some years, who did not sell, he and his wife bought a house and they've been renting theirs for several years now. But he did not sell his house. He donated it to a charity so that he did not have, because, I mean, our houses, you know, in Studio City have gone from we paid 54 years ago and what you can get for it now, a lot different. But he did not have to pay the tax on the increase in his property value because he donated it to a charity. And then he was able to take the amount that the house was worth and take it off his taxes.
What about asking Krekorian?
And now they've torn the house down and they're gonna.
If there's any monies that they could pay for the private,
Well, maybe
That come out of the committee.
we'll come out of the committee.
Okay.
Okay, so let's vote on it. It's been a long night. I'll go down the roll. So obviously a vote for yes will, you know, is in support of
let's
it.
do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Marcia Newman,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Patrice.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Craig, yes. There we go.
Okay.
He's our new member over there.
Oh, hey.
Well, not for this meeting, not officially. I have to.
I didn't want you to be left out.
All right, so this
Once again-
adjusted motion passes. Patty, go ahead.
I just want to say, we need the support of all of you folks at the council meeting to get it passed. Or the same thing will happen as happened the last meeting about the homeless.
Yeah, and for those of you watching this on YouTube, please come down. I'm going to give you the exact date. The next board meeting is on, help me out here.
And the councilman's office will be
Senator
there.
Hertzberg will be there, and who else will be there?
Jessica should be there.
No, Assemblyman Nazarian is expected there as well. So this is July 18th, Wednesday, July 18th.
Okay.
We'll send it out. Thank you, Ben.
And remember,
Always
it might be a
appreciate
carpenter. We're not sure yet.
So we're gonna wrap things up. Any final comments from the board? Alex, any more ideas?
I'll have it on the
next
next month. I just wanted to,
Send me
we have money. That's my last point. We have money. They're just pissing it away in places that they're not coming to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's gonna be a wrap for tonight. Thank you.